God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the Nathan NAPALM channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content on our march to launch. Today, guys, I want to talk about the Atmospheres and kind of discuss it and what it is, what it's all about, and what it could mean, and kind of throw out some theories out there about what it was going to end up being like, etc. What is the Atmosphere? So, they talked about it in the February newsletter, and basically because the world of Terminus was formed from many different diverse landscapes that have all been drawn from different realms into, colliding and becoming Terminus. Because they came from different places, when they kind of fused together into this one realm, it created a lot of energy and power with it, mixing and matching those different realms from different places, different planets, I guess you could say, kind of merging together into one, created this kind of mysterious energy. Okay, several different types, and it affects the world in which we'll be in, which is Terminus. Now, as we all know, in Pantheon, they really want the environment to actually matter. They don't want PvE to simply mean player versus NPC. After all, the E does not in any fashion stand for NPC or mobs. It's environment, and they want the environment to actually have meaning and actually be something to contend with during your life in Terminus. So, there are many different ways they're doing this, the climates and the atmospheres that we're going to cover today. But keep in mind, the climate is dealing with extreme natural phenomena that the players will encounter in Terminus, while atmospheres are an unnatural metaphysical phenomena. So the kind that might occur because, like we said earlier, the worlds have collided. Because this is an unnatural thing that has happened, expect to see very wild and crazy things. So I've already done a video about the actual artifacts that are going to be dealing, a way to deal with these different atmospheres. But today I want to discuss the actual atmospheres themselves. So I kind of went through these quickly in my last video, but we're going to go more in depth this time. So here's some of the atmospheres you can encounter when you explore Terminus. Silencing mists. Okay, so in this one, no magic can be used, okay? It completely negates magic so that you cannot use it at all. A lesser extreme of that could be that it drains the mana, okay? So your mana is being pulled away from you for being in it. However, and at the most extreme, there is no mana to use. You're silenced. You cannot do it at all. There'll be ways around this, obviously, okay? We're not going to get into that because I already did a video about that. But there will be ways that you can circumvent these atmospheres, okay? Keep that in mind as we're talking about them. We also have another one called the Fog of Confusion, right? Now, they don't go into big detail about all these. They really only go into big detail about Gloom, but the Fog of Confusion, I would assume you enter an area that has this fog, and while you're in there, your abilities don't work. You have little to no control of your character, okay? You lose the ability to do basic functions with your character. In other words, you are useless. You cannot survive in an environment like that. Next up, we have Gloom, which Gloom we actually have the most details on, okay? So this is mostly found in undead ruins and crypts and graveyards. It drains mana over time. It reduces healing effectiveness. It increases damage inflicted by undead enemies. And for the undead, the NPC undeads, it adds a bonus to all their stats and increases their aggro and assist radius. Now, something else I want to throw on top of this is, when you throw in dispositions of the NPCs, and these are their atmospheres, like the undead would be to the Gloom, I could see things happening where you're in a crypt, and maybe you're not in the Gloom, but you're close to it. and your group can't go to the gloom, you know, in that gloomy area because you don't have the artifact or any way of negating those effects. Therefore, you're just kind of going near it and fighting stuff close to it, but you're staying out of the actual gloom, so you don't get these debuffs and the buffs onto the NPCs, and the NPCs in certain dispositions decide, you know what, screw this, I'm running over into the gloom, where I'll get a bonus to all my stats, I'll get an increase on my aggro, my assist radius, etc. And they'll run into this gloom, and the assist radius goes up, and suddenly there's a big train of undead coming out of the gloom to get you. Right? Not good. So we also have to keep in mind the other different aspects, and like the disposition, for example, and how that will also affect the atmospheres, okay? Because of that example right there. So it's very complicated. Very cool. I'm glad it's so complicated. That's a great thing. But let's move on. Next we have frenetic floor. Now, when I first read this, I was like, man, this could mean so many different things. Now, if you look up the actual definition for frenetic, you'll find that it means fast and energetic in a rather wild and uncontrolled way. So this makes me feel like that the floor shifts, it moves, it's all over the place, it's, you know, it's hectic and frantic and wild and uncontrollable, right? So you wouldn't be able to even move. It might dump you out. It's shifting, tiles are moving, you're moving with it, that kind of thing. So it would be nearly impossible to actually survive in an environment like that. Next up, we have the curse of intangibility. So this would be more like something that can't be touched or grasped, like it doesn't have a physical presence, okay? So ghostly almost, or just impossible to understand or define. It's very vague and abstract. It doesn't have the physicality of being a solid object kind of thing, all right? So that's an interesting one, and I'm trying to picture what that would look like, and I can only think of it would be almost like there's a veil torn, and you're seeing into another dimension, right? Like a spirit-type dimension, and you have no power there because you're a physical being, right? So you can't exist in it, or maybe if you... I wonder what would happen if you went into it anyway, though. What would the consequences be? Would you die? Would you become a spirit yourself? Would you just fall through the floor? Would you just begin floating and, you know, you can't control anything? Like, I wonder what that will look like in actual gameplay. I'm not sure, but you can use your imagination just based off of what intangible means and kind of go from there. So that's kind of all we can really talk about on that one. Next up, we have heavy air. So I like to think of heavy air, could be wrong about this, guys, but I think about heavy air and I think of like actual atmospheres in the real world, right? Like when you go up really high on a mountain, you're going to have thin air. If you go really low below sea level, you have heavier air. So making it harder to breathe is the way I'm taking it. Harder to breathe, harder to sustain your endurance. So, you know, definitely, you know, your endurance goes down if the air is heavier, right? Things like that is all I can really think of for heavy air. And then last, we have shifting walls. So shifting walls, to me, could be wrong. They could take this all kinds of directions, but when I think of shifting walls, I think of something like literally the walls are moving, slamming, you know, they're all over the place, and you could get squashed by one, you know, and maybe they're moving at such an uncontrollable, kind of hard to predict patterns that are changing that you can't, it's not like you would think of in like a game like Super Mario where the walls come up and down, you time it and you run through them. This is so out of control that you just can't, right? You have no control over it. You get squashed, you get killed, you get thrown up in the air because you end up accidentally on top of one, and things like that. So this is how I feel about these, and of course there are artifacts to deal with these. Now what I'd like to talk about also is, it doesn't really say, however, based off of the horizontal progression that the game wants to do with gear, I could definitely see there being certain rare drops that also help negate some of these issues that you'll be dealing with the atmosphere, right, in different ways. So just for example, a pair of boots that are you know, I'm making this up, and of course they got more creativity than I do, but, you know, something like the Boots of the Ghost, right? I don't know, that's a terrible name, but you get what I'm saying. And because these boots are ghostly, they're spiritual boots, right? You can actually, it helps you when you're in an area that is under the effect of the curse of intangibility, right? Like, and you can walk in there maybe, and you don't fall through, or something, you know, something to that effect, right? Maybe there's a helmet of clarity, right? And when you put this helmet on, it helps you go into a place under the effect of fog of confusion to help you from getting confused. And see, we already know there's going to be gear because they've talked about it before on the climates to help with that, like extreme cold, extreme heat, etc., etc. So if they do the same thing with the atmospheres, and I think they will, because, you know, it's all about the horizontal at in-game. It's what they want to be about. There's just so many options out there for, you can't just get one set of gear and be good. You're gonna have to get multiple types. It's just, it prolongs your gameplay. It adds more value to different areas. It will have people more spread out and doing different things, etc. So it's a very good way to do in-game, is this horizontal progression on the gear. And of course, beyond the gear, there'll be more later. You know, that's probably not going to be at launch, but things like, you know, AAs or something to that effect as well. But, you know, for gear, I definitely want there to be a lot of sets, right? Like, not just this one Uber set that I wear and it practically does everything, but these many different sets. Now, I also want to talk about that the atmosphere and the climates can intermix, so we can get this crazy amount of different variances. Okay, so a place could be under, for example, heavy air and also be extremely hot, for example, right? Like, there could be a pocket near lava. It's extremely hot. You can't just go there, you know. You need something special to survive in that climate. Plus, it has heavy air. So, you see, they can mix and match these throughout the world and create lots of really cool things. And as you can see, just from talking about this, this makes the environment even more of something to contend with. So it is you versus the environment, and not just you versus the NPC. And these are the kind of examples that really show that, number one, the development team behind Pantheon Rise has a lot of experience with MMOs, to where they're really using the kind of information that they have gathered over the years and putting it into effect in such a way that will give us a much more enjoyable world and a much more varied world. A place where there are mysteries, right? Like, you walk up on this area and you really like it, and it's a crypt, and you're exploring it. It's so cool, and you practically mapped out the entire crypt. You know it like the back of your hand, but there's this one area, and you had no idea how far back it goes and how immense it might be, or what kind of treasures or what kind of different mobs might be back there, because you can't go there yet because it's gloom. It's got the gloom effect, and you don't have the right gear. So yes, you love this area, and now what are you going to do? You're going to want to go out and get an artifact or gear or whatever the case may be, so that you can travel back in there. Like, just imagine that you're hanging out in this area that you really like, you're camping it, or you're XPing or whatever, and you see a group just run back into the gloom because they got what they need. And you're like, dang, man, I want that to be me one day. I want to be able to go back there. And that just gives you more inspiration to go out into and do new adventures, so that you can come back to this place and explore it. So it adds an exploration factor, everything. I really like it. I think it's a really cool idea, and I think it's about time that we have a game where we're actually contending with the environment. Guys, I think I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you coming and checking it out. Now, before we go, I do have one last thing I want to talk about. The Nathan NAPALM channel now has been approved for having memberships, okay? Memberships are different than subscriptions. It's kind of like Twitch, where you can actually become a member of the Nathan NAPALM channel, okay? If you're interested in that, then right below this video, where the subscribe button is, that you've probably already clicked, there will be an option there that says join. If you're interested in joining the Nathan NAPALM channel, we do offer exclusive benefits to those people because, let's face it, you're helping me go full-time here on YouTube by becoming a member. Watching my videos and coming and checking it out is plenty enough. Subscribing and coming back and watching the videos and commenting and giving me likes and all the things you guys do also helps this channel grow and is just as important. But if you are the kind of person where you want to give a little more to help this channel out, I definitely appreciate it, but I'm not trying to force the subject over on you. But I do want to tell you a little bit about it real quick and tell you what kind of benefits you get for doing that. So here are some of the custom perks you get for becoming a member. We'll be doing a monthly live stream for members only. Now what this means is we're going to be talking about different topics. So I'm going to let my members decide what topic they want me to make a video about. And we're just going to hang out, we're going to talk, and just figure out what you guys want from the channel, and you definitely will get to decide at least one topic that I will make a video about. Also, on the second Saturday of each month, I'll be doing that. So you know when I'm gonna do it, and of course we'll set up a time. We're gonna say it'll be in the evening time. We'll do like 8 p.m. on Saturday, second Saturday of each month. I'll go up live. It'll be available for the members to join. I'll remind you about it in the community post for members only, and to let you know it's about to happen. You come on, you join us, and you join me in the chat, and we talk and hang out. I answer questions, and you decide what you would like me to make a video about. You also receive a shout out in each of my videos. So, after every video, as I'm going to do on this one, because I already have one member right now, I'm going to be giving you a shout out in each video, just thanking you, because you're really helping my dream come true of being full-time YouTube. And the real reason I want to go full-time is so that I can create better quality content, as this would be my full-time job, and just giving back to you, working for you, and not for the man, right? Another thing that I'll be doing is on that second Saturday, while we're doing our live chat, I'll of course be recording that, and we'll do a Q&A. I'll gather questions from you guys, and we'll do a monthly video addressing your questions, and your questions will always be on there. There will be questions that I gather just from comments, but if you are a member, you are guaranteed that your questions will be answered on my monthly Q&A. The last thing, and probably the coolest thing in my opinion, is I will be having anniversary gifts, okay? So once you've been a member of my channel for 6 months, you get a digital drawing that I do myself of you as your Pantheon class. And every 6 months we'll update it with something new. But that is something cool and something available. Alright guys, thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you soon. Until next time, God bless and happy gaming.